Hey, it's Doug Devitre, host of the CoTrackPro podcast. This is our first video podcast episode, and I'm extremely excited to have Greg Hill. He's the founder of an amazing organization, ourchildrenhaverights.org. He's been at this for about 5 years. He's got a comprehensive website. He's got a book. Any families that are going through some rough patches, especially after separation or during co-parenting conflict, I want to introduce to you my new friend, Greg Hill. Greg, how are you today?
Thank you for the introduction, good sir. I am well. I'm well. I like to say when I get asked that, I can't complain. I mean, even if I did, no one's gonna listen. So I'm here. I'm here.
Well, absolutely love what you've done here with Our Children Have Rights. Why don't you tell me, how you got started with this, or when you got started, how you got started, and kind of where you're at today?
So to kick it off, I'd like to give the mission statement, so everybody has an idea of, what the language is behind this, right? So the mission statement is to protect children's rights to have access to both parents equally by providing co-parenting resources. And so I need to preface with that because again, this is not a mother issue. This is not a father issue. This is a community and a societal issue for the children. So this is about the children, and I'll talk to any and everyone who wants to protect children's rights to have access to the people they love. And those people are grandparents, those people are uncles, aunts, nanny, anybody that is there to protect these children's rights to have access to the people that love them in their village. Those are the people that I want to help and assist with this process. So again, the mission is to protect children's rights to have access to both parents equally by providing co-parenting resources.
Yeah, no,
All right.
that's super cool. So
Thank you.
tell me,
Thank you.
tell me
Thank you.
about some of those resources you've got.
So the main resources, and we'll get into this a little bit later.
Yeah.
Let's
All right, all
let's
right.
not
I
let's
know you
not
got a
get
lot
it.
to
Let's
say.
not get ahead of ourselves here. I'll tell you what I like to do is start out with the why, right? Because I like to try to answer 5 questions when I tell people about OCHR or Our Children Have Rights. And so the why is who, what, when, where, and why. So the why, right? This is how it formulated. So originally, my son was conceived in the state of New Jersey, and 3 weeks before he was born, mom moved to Florida.
Mm.
So then I had to move to Florida to protect his rights to have access to me. And so I did what any and everyone would do out here in our community who doesn't know, right? I went and got a lawyer. And the first thing I did, again, got a lawyer. And I'm thinking, hey, the lawyer is going to help resolve this. The lawyer is going to understand my plight. The lawyer is going to understand everything that I'm trying to go through is going to be fine with it. I'm going to leave it in the lawyer's hands. Well, I didn't get the proper counsel that I needed. And I ended up going through mediation, and my lawyer agreed with the other party. So then I end up coming out of mediation in order to pay $1,141 a month for a son that has no access to me.
Mm.
So that's why OCHR came about, right? And so I took that and then I went home and felt as if I failed this young man as a father. And so now I'm drinking a bottle of liquor a day for about 3 months straight, sitting in my office in the dark, feeling as if I failed this young man. And then the light bulb goes off. I say, well, if I'm going to take this thing head on, I'm going to do it my way. And so I began to read and research and find out about any and everything when it came to custody, when it came to child support, when it came to the process, when it came to any of the language that I needed to know or needed to understand of what the courts were trying to use or what was trying to be used to hold me accountable. I went and read about it. So now taking that information, I go back and look at my own parenting plan or what I've been actually ordered into. And I say, well, hey, according to what I read, this is all wrong.
Right, right.
All right.
Get it?
So I take that. I'm like, wait a minute. I got to do something about this. So then I go back to court. Right. So now I go back to court and I'm able to articulate what the law says and what all the information, the verbiage I've read says to the judge. And so the judge says, okay, we're going to take care of it. So now the judge sends us an order in the mail. Now I drop from 1141 with the information that I learned. Now I have it down to $124 a month, and my son now has 50-50 access to me. So of course now I'm excited, feeling as if I've won. This is similar to winning the Super Bowl, right? I won.
But
And then the
you
light bulb,
won to get back to even, right?
I won just to get back to even. This is all I wanted for the young man to have access to me. That's
Right,
it, right?
right.
So I'm feeling as if I won, and I say, wait a minute. The light bulb goes off again. So wait a minute. There are other people out here who are going through this same thing, and they just don't know what to do. So that's when I write the book, Our Children Have Rights.
Yeah, I love it.
So I start to go on a rampage. I want everybody to know about this book. Everybody should understand this information. Everybody should be able to protect their children's rights to have access to them with this information. So it was very well received. I told you I went on the Father's Rights movement. I went on several podcasts, several speaking avenues. I spoke for organizations in Australia, UK, Canada, Brazil, Italy. Everybody loved it. So now, I get back to the day job. I'm IT security by trade. I do IT by trade. And so I'm wearing apparel now. I've scaled now to apparel. I have a book. I have apparel. I have T-shirts. I have sweaters. I have hoodies. I have clothes for the kids. I have apparel now. I have a brand that I'm actually selling, and I'm actually promoting and getting the information out. And so now one day I'm doing some IT work for my business partners, and they say, "Well, hey, what is this that you have on? What does this mean?" Right. So I give them my spiel. I tell them the story. And my business partner says, hey, you could help a lot of people with this. Have you ever thought about this being a nonprofit organization?
Yeah.
I say, I don't know anything about nonprofit organization. All right. And he says, well, I do. And if you would, go along with it, I'll help. We can do it. I said, all right, if you want to do it, then we could do it. And that's when Our Children Have Rights, the nonprofit organization, started. So I've been at this since January 2021. So it's been a long journey, but I can't be more excited about the process and the work that we're doing, and the ability to see the face on these children when we actually achieve the outcome and the goal, which is to protect children's rights to have access to both parents equally by providing these co-parenting resources.
I love that so much because what you've done is you turn your own personal pain into a purpose,
That's
right?
right.
So now so many other people get to benefit. And it's just not just where you are. You're in Florida, right?
Well, it's incorporated in Florida, so
Okay.
let's talk about that, right?
Yeah.
So I actually have a house in Florida, which I bought in Florida to be closer to the young man and closer to our son.
Yeah.
Well, originally I was living upstate or further up in New York. I was living in the Bronx, and she was living in New Jersey. I bought a house 15 minutes from her to be closer to her to help her with our son.
Hmm.
And she decided I couldn't support him and went down to Florida. So I am right now in the New Jersey house.
So crazy. So crazy. But you're keeping the mission going.
It has to be upkept. This is the life's work. This is the mission right now. This is my purpose. Even if I don't get paid a dime, this is what I will do until I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
This is the purpose.
So who are the types of people who contact you? It's not the kids, right? Even though they're the ones who benefit. It's not
Correct.
so who are the types of people who contact you? Parents?
Well, parents normally contact us, so it's a wide range of parents or a wide range of situations for the parents who contact us. We get mothers who want their fathers, the fathers to be accountable. We get, moms who want help for their sons. We get, grandparents who wants help for, their grandchildren. It's a wide spectrum, a wide gamut of the people who actually reach out to us. But for the most part, the people who come to us are people who want to be accountable, and they want the children to have the access that they need to both parents.
Yeah, got it. And so what are some of the steps you walk them through?
So we have what we call our three pillars. The first one is education, right? Because most times people come to us and they have no idea
Yeah,
about this process of what's going on or what's actually happening or anything. They're uneducated, right? So the first thing we have to do is educate them on the process of protecting the children's rights to have access to them, right? So once you have that education, then you go into that second pillar, which is the mental health. So parents also come to us and they're already in fight or flight. It's already what the other party did to me. Oh, they did this, or they're trying to do this, or this is what's happened to me, and they're all doing it to me, 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 me. Well, we get the opportunity to speak to them and bring them out of fight or flight and then
yeah,
get them thinking properly, right? And so that is the mental health pillar. And then we also have other resources because again, we're not mental health providers, but
right.
I am a parent who's gone through this for us, and I know where parents are in the process. So I get the opportunity to empathize with them and then bring them out of fight or flight and then get them thinking correctly after they're educated. And then the third pillar is that legal aid and mental health. I mean, a legal aid and documentation review. So now, while I'm not a lawyer, again, I'm a parent who's filed over 75 motions to protect my son's right to have access to me.
I
So
get
I
it.
may know my way around, some documentation. So what I try to do first is to establish things, right? So it depends on where the parent are, where they are. Sometimes they don't have a parenting plan. Sometimes they have an established paternity. Sometimes they don't have insurance. Sometimes they don't even have a birth certificate, right? So we have to start with that documentation. So you gather that documentation before you go and try to get that accountability. So again, education, mental health, then legal aid and documentation review. What does your documentation say? Have you started that documentation? If you haven't, then you need to start here. You need to figure out how to file your motions, or you need to go into mediation, or you need to get through that documentation first. And then if you have the documentation and you still don't have the accountability, then let's find out what document you need to file next, or what does it look like to file a documentation next. Some people will need, motions for contempt, right? And some people may, need substantial change in circumstance. Some people may need different documentation. They may need them. So I can point them in the right direction and educate them on those documents and then say, hey, if you're not the parent who wants to represent yourself, if you don't think you can articulate in a courtroom, then let's get you some legal representation. But I want you to go to that legal representation educated with your mind in the right place with some documentation. So you go to that lawyer and you're prepared to speak to the lawyer to get what you need from that lawyer.
Yeah, I can understand how complex the situation is, and there's so many different professionals that are involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's the attorney, there's the GAL, there's the mediator, there's
Mm-hmm.
mental health professional, there's the co-parenting counselor, there's the co-parenting coordinator,
Right.
right? And
Right.
you're not trying to, steal their thunder or anything
Correct.
like that, right?
Correct. So I am pro anyone who can assist, but it behooves the parents to be educated on what the people are or who they are that are coming in to assist. If you don't know anything about what they do and how it works, then those people can actually turn your situation to a worst case. So you have to be educated and understand what's going on through this process to find out, who, what, when, where, and why these people are doing what they're doing. And also, these may be people that you don't need in your case. They may be muddying the water for your case. They may be more trees in the forest than you need. So you
Yeah.
have to be educated on what you need and educate how this process works in order to protect those children's rights to have access to you.
Well, I like I like the option to come to you because you're a third party resource who has kids in mind,
Mm-hmm.
and even you're out of that little the mini ecosystem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where kind of even in small towns where everyone might know one another. I can see that there's a tremendous benefit on focusing on the core issues
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to, who knows who.
Yes. And I go even further than that. I try to make sure that everyone involved is educated, right? Because I think this is really a a bottom up, top down approach. Even if it gets into the laws still need to, we still need to be educated on the laws and how we can use them. And so the legislation and the lawmakers need to understand that, we're not trying to be against you. We just need the laws that, can work for our children and our families. So it's really a bottom up, top down approach. And we need to find out how we meet in that middle. And that's what we're trying to do here at OCHR. We want everybody to be educated. We want everybody to have the information they need, so then we can all come together and protect these children's right to have access to both parents, right? Because then, if both parents are educated, if everybody's educated, then we can really make some sound decisions on what really needs to happen for these children.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. And speaking about different states have different laws, right?
Hmm.
And maybe some laws are a little bit behind compared to other states,
Right.
right? So, kind of what's your experience in working with multiple states and maybe even advocating for some new legislation to help support the kids?
I absolutely agree with that. Some states are different, right? So when it really boils down, so what OCHR tries to do is make the process same for everybody. So there's really a couple things that I tell parents to focus on, that no matter where you are, it's going to be the same thing. Number one is, what is the distance from the other party, right? What is the distance from the non-custodial or the custodial parent? And this is where parents have to do the work. Right. You have to go and read and research. I can give you the skeleton, but you have to fill in the meat as the parent, depending on what state you're in. Right. So the distance is one of the main things that are going to be a key indicator to your overnights. That's a direct correlation to your overnights. Right. So in the state of Florida, if you're outside of 45 miles, then you're automatically deemed or going to be ordered into a long distance plan. But a lot of people don't really know this going in.
Mm.
So we have to be educated on what we're dealing with, right? So again, the laws, we have to understand the laws and how to use them, right? And so that's number one thing, is the distance, which is the direct correlation to overnights, but overnights is going to be third. So distance. The number two thing is insurance, right? If you, it doesn't matter what state you're in, if you look at the child support calculator, whoever carries the child on the insurance is going to get credit for that on the child support calculator. So your child support will be lower, but you got to cover the insurance. So I know a lot of parents are like, oh, well, I don't know where the money is going. Well, if you put that bill on your insurance, you know where the money is going.
Mm.
All
Interesting.
right. So insurance is another calculator in the child support calculator, another debt, another kind of a slot in the child support calculator. And then the third thing we said was overnights. So if the closer you get to 180 overnights, the lower your child support will be. Right. And so the other variable is in, how much money does the household do you two bring in? And then they spit out the actual cookie cutter child support or the actual order from those key components. So we have to understand, we have to learn what they're using by law, and then how we can use these things in our favor to get better outcome for our children. So when it comes to advocating for law, I don't advocate for the changes, but I advocate for people learning and understanding how they work in your state. So that way I can give you a skeleton, but you can fill in the meat according to your case.
Well, I would think you would be a good advocate on the Hill, in every state, but I'm sure you got your
Maybe,
hands full.
listen, maybe one day I'll get there, but my team is like, no, we don't want to go to legislation yet, because I think, we want to focus more on parents. I think if we can empower parents and educate parents, then, we could all use the law according to the way it's actually designed. But if you don't know how the law is supposed to work, then you're just going to get railroaded anyway. So I try to stick to educating parents, and then eventually, we may get to the law.
What's interesting, and here where I live in St. Louis, I met somebody who's doing some national advocacy work, Mark Ludwig. I
Yeah,
don't know
I
if you
know
know
Mark.
him, but like he's going to different states,
Yeah.
right, to help advocate. So I give him a lot of respect, right,
Hmm.
because he's doing something that many of us might not have the courage or the time to be able to do because
Hmm.
of how stressful that might be. So.
Yeah. No, I know Mark. Mark and I, we've worked on several projects together. We actually did a video tribute, and so when Mark reeled, was starting his book. He did a campaign, and we all got together and did some videos to help promote his book. So Mark Ludwig and I did that. We've spoken several times, and he's deep in the legislation. And I'm like,
Yes.
Mark, I love you for it. Keep doing what you're doing. And once you get the legislation changed, I will help educate parents on how to use it.
There you go. There you go. Well, doing this 5 years and traveling around speaking and stuff, tell me about some of these success stories that you've
Mhm.
had with, mother, father, and maybe I don't know if you ever get to speak to the kids, but tell me some of these, I guess, results or testimonials you might have for your organization.
So every day we get emails, we get responses to our questionnaires and responses to people that we've helped that states, we're so happy or we're so glad that you're doing what you're doing. You're really helping. But some personal that really got personal to me. I spoke for an organization down in Florida called More Than a Game, and there was a young man there who was going through custody battle. He just didn't know anything or what to do, right? And so it took us about a year, but that young man I think he has full custody of his son now, and he has a solid co-parenting strategy and a solid co-parenting situation for his son. So that one was always personal to me. I played ball against him a little bit, and we got a chance to talk, and we had some really great results from that. But one of the more personal ones I'd like to tell you about is my own brother. My brother uh, had 3 kids, and his child's mother went out to California, and unfortunately, she passed away. The grandparents kept the children from my brother
Wow.
for close to, I want to say, two years, and it took us everything as a family to help my brother get those kids back. That is probably one of my proudest moments of OCHR. Forget my story, forget everything I've been able to do for my own children, but for my nieces and nephews to be able to have that access to them to get them back from my brother. It's probably one of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah, that hits hard.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And look, him calling now.
Yeah,
Speaking of the devil, right?
he's
But
thinking
keep going,
about it.
keep going.
Oh. So what advice would you give to, let's say, a parent just starting out in this process?
Do any and everything that you can to educate yourself. Learn the law, learn the process, learn, what it takes to get the documentation that you're going to need to protect your children's rights to have access to you. Education, education, education. I cannot speak to it enough. You have to get the knowledge and understand how to get these things done. And that's number one. Number two, do the best you can to stay out of fight or flight. Make sure you're mentally in the right space. Okay. You have to have your mind in the right place. And then number three, be open, right? Be open to negotiation, be open to learning about the other party and learning what you have to do. Because I mean, a lot of times, we just don't have a clue. I mean, for example, mothers need to breastfeed when the children are at a young age. And so we as parents need to understand or figure out and educate ourselves on how that works.
Yeah.
So it matters when you're educated on it and you understand that, this is what we have to do to make sure that our child gets the access to both parents that they need. And then once you have that, make sure you have all your documentation in place, right? Because accountability only happens when you have that documentation. When everybody has a clear and concise plan on what is supposed to happen for our children, then we can govern ourselves accordingly. So it is imperative that you educate yourself, make sure your mind is in the right place, make sure you're open, and then make sure you get your documentation right as close as you can so you can protect those children's rights to have the access that they need to both parents.
Yeah, you bet. I agree. I've got your book pulled up. It's called All Our Children Have Rights, Child Custody for Unwed Parent. It's available on Amazon, Kindle edition, and also paperback.
Yeah, so I'm a big reader. I'm a fan of The Art of War and Prince Machiavelli. I'm a fan of small paperback books, The Richest Man in Babylon. And
Hmm.
so the book, what I really wanted to do was, first of all, I wanted to have a conversation with myself. If you read the book, it'll read as if, I'm talking to you, but I was talking to me. So the whole point of the book was, if I had the opportunity to go back and tell myself what to do, what would Greg tell Greg? And
Yeah,
that's what I wrote down in the book.
I like that.
Right. And so I came at it from that angle. So the book was me talking to me. And then I wanted it to be a short read or, a pocket guide for some of these things that we will need to get people going in the right direction. It's not the end all be all for all the answers, but it's going to make you go into the right direction of what you're going to need wherever you are in your process of protecting children's right to have access to you. So I wanted to be a pocket guide. You can sit and read it. It's less than 80 pages, but I wanted it to be direct and to the point, and it's a conversation with myself.
Well, I've got a random question for you, right? And
Go
so
ahead.
you have to think about it, but since you started this process, right, from when you filed for divorce and kind of where you are today, how many books have you read on psychology, on communication? 'Cause
Uh,
I'm a reader too, right? And I'm an Audible junkie, so
yeah.
I've learned so much through this process.
Actually, none. Right. So
Oh
I don't read
man.
any books on psychology or anything of that nature. So I'm a strategy person, right? I'm a big chess player.
Yeah, there you go.
So most of my books will be strategy, whether they're financial, whether they're personal, whether they're, economy, whether they're just overall game of what I'm trying to learn and find out what's happening, what's going on out here. What are the strategies that are involved? And so that's where a lot of my reading comes from. Is a lot of strategy books. I'm a war, history fan. Because you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been.
Yeah.
So I tend to read that way. And that's why, I stated, The Art of War, right, by Sun Tzu.
Yep.
That's probably one of my favorite books.
Well, you've got the book I'm going to recommend that people check out. I'm going to put the links to the show notes. But I like to consider what you're doing the good work, right?
Mhm.
And to operate this, to operate your website, any collateral, travel that you might have to do. I know that, money doesn't grow on trees. So how do you support this organization other than just, out of your own bank account?
So if you go to OCHR, there's a link there that says support our mission. And so right now we are, getting financially supported in a few different ways, right? Number one, donations are always welcome, but we don't charge parents, right? So if any parent wants to, give out of the kindness of their hearts, feel free to do so, but that's not an obligation for you to come to OCHR and get the resources because we think this is a community problem, right? So we fundraise in our communities to make sure that the organizations around us, the corporations around us, fund the work that we're actually doing for the community. So it's a lot of community funding. A lot of the community foundations, they fund us. We'll go to the state of Florida. We've lobbied for the state of Florida for funding. We get a lot of grants, right? And so
Yeah.
this is a community issue. Parents do not have to pay us for anything. So that's one of the best things about our organization. Two great things about our organization. One is you get the opportunity to talk to a father and a dad who's gone through this for us already, right? So again, I like to tell people all the time, I'm not only the president, I'm also a client. The old hair men for the hair commercial men, right? I cliche. I take their coin. I coin their phrase. I'm not only the president, I'm also a client. So I still deal with the same things every single day. I'm still a co-parent. And then
Yeah.
number two is, we want it to be free to parents. Parents don't cost, we don't want parents to pay anything to come and get these resources, right? So, but for the most part, we got a mixed bag of how we do it, grants, a lot of community funding, and then we try to go and lobby the state for funding also. And then we have some private donations as well. So that's how we fund this thing. And again, right now I'm not taking a salary, so I do this work for no money.
Yeah. It's you're
So
doing God's work, and
that's
so many
it.
people need it.
That's it. This is about the children. If I get to see children with their parents, that is more than enough for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's all I wanted for my son, was to have the access to me that he needed. And I'll stop saying my son, our son, to have the access to me that he needed. That was the blessing in all of this. And so the ability to help other parents and other children have that same thing, that is the payment.
Man, that's really awesome. So in the show notes, I'm going to put a link to your book, put a link to your website, put a link to there's an application page, right, that people
Yes.
can fill out, and then
Yes.
also put a link for the donation, so that way people can continue to support you.
Perfect. 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 We definitely appreciate it. Anything that people can do to help, man, we'll take it, and it'll go right back to the parents. We'll do any and everything that we can to help support these parents and these children.
Well, Greg, I appreciate you being a part of this podcast. I've learned a lot. I know that people who are watching this are learned a lot, and you probably get some phone calls as a result of this. So everyone, this is Greg Hill, co-founder of our children have rights.org.
Hmm.
So make sure you visit that website and fill out that application if you need some help.
Thank you for having me, good sir.
All right.